Courtney Kintzer, where did you first realize that, images and telling a story?
Well, I think it started when I was probably in junior high. My parents had a Brownie box camera, and I started taking pictures of my airplane models. And I used to hang them with invisible thread from trees, and I would try and shoot it and make it look like they were flying.
Okay.
So that's kind of, and I didn't understand what depth of field was, because I would take the Brownie camera and get right up against like inches away from my airplane models, and it looked great in the viewfinder. And then they would come back from Dean's Studios, and they were all blurry. Like, what is I it was a long way to figure out what was going on. But what really started it was, I can tell you, it was April of 1973. We had just finished the big April blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
That we didn't have school for 3 days.
Hmm.
And I bought a used home movie camera, a regular 8mm home movie camera. And recently I just started, I found the whole box of 8mm movies that I made. And I'm going to give a little plug to put it on video. And I've started to take them over to put it on video and digitize them. And originally I wanted to be a Hollywood movie cameraman. That was my goal. And I started making these little movies with my buddies. But at the same time, my dad used to work for the Associated Press. And as a habit, we would always watch the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. And this was during the Watergate era. And I'm paying very close attention to the coverage and the Washington, D.C. courthouse scene where all the camera crews are outside of the courthouse chasing after people. And in those days, the cameraman and the sound man were hooked together with a cable. And just, we have words for just a big scrum of people is the polite way to put it. And I looked at that and I'm like, that looks like fun. I want to be a TV news cameraman. Forget about this Hollywood stuff. So to be the biggest dork in the world, I started going around with my home movie camera and I started going to news events on my own. My dad got me my first press pass. I covered Gerald Ford's visit to Iowa in 1974. And then from then on, I just started going to whatever I could. I carried my home movie camera with me wherever I went. I went to started going to news conferences on my own with my home movie camera. I went to a Governor Ronald Reagan news conference, a Senator Ted Kennedy news conference, who was the Daniel Ellsberg news conference. I even went to an MTA bus dedication with my home movie camera. But my biggest coup was beating Kevin Cooney to a fire. And that's how I met Kevin Cooney. We've used it on the air now. He had his big afro, and I heard fire engines in my neighborhood. My parents never owned a car. So I heard the fire engines, and I ran about 5 blocks. And it was a bar on fire in front of Terrace Hill. And I got there before Kevin did, and I got footage of him getting out of the TV8 car with his big afro and his CP16 running. And I was just like, this is it. Boy, oh boy. And I just started assembling all my news movies, and we had a career day. That's why I think it's important to mentor people. We had a career day at Roosevelt, and a gentleman by the name of George Davidson, then working for KRNT Radio, was the speaker. And afterwards, I told him and I said, I want to be, I talked to him I said, I want to be a TV news cameraman. And he gave me his business card, which I still carry in my wallet to this day. It's been laminated. On the back of it, he wrote Lyle Shires, Channel 13 chief photographer. He said, this is the best cameraman I know. Give him a call. Called Lyle that night, and they had an opening. He said, well, we have an opening to the film lab. Because in those days, all the stations shot 16mm color film. and every station had its own film lab. So basically, Lyle had an open in the film lab. I took my Boy Scout projector, 8 millimeter projector, no, my home movie projector, put it in my Boy Scout backpack, and walked down to Channel 13 at 11th and Walnut for my job interview. And I showed Lyle my news movies.
Oh, wow.
And he critiqued them. I mean, he was like, "Well, that was a jump cut. That was not good, but that was that those shots. That was okay." And at the same time, I'm thinking he's probably thinking, now that I look back at it, what is this kid, the junior at Roosevelt? He hired me that night. He hired me to work in the film lab, and then I would work 5 days a week. I would come in my days off and just hang with Lyle, and things still reverberate in my mind that Lyle taught me. And I still give him a call every now and then. He lives in West Des Moines, and he's who gave me my lucky break and taught me how to shoot news film. So that's how it started. A long story.
Wow, that's a great story, though. That's awesome.
And so I have all these news movies, and I just found one that I hadn't seen since I shot it, because my home movie camera, I got hired in May of '75, and I was still using my home movie camera, but they didn't let me shoot right away. They let me just work in a film lab. One of the very last pieces of film that I shot was a Jimmy Carter news conference at the Hotel Fort Des Moines.
Hmm.
And I just recently, just a couple days ago, from Put It on Video, I just got the footage of Jimmy Carter leaving the Hotel Fort Des Moines, eating peanuts, I'm pretty certain. And I ran, doing the back pedal, the whole gig. And then my home movie camera broke. You'd wind it up. And literally, like the next week, Lyle let me start shooting news film with WHO cameras, which was a big deal to me. I was just like, I owe everything to Lyle Schreiers.
Wow, that's awesome.
So this is a good market. It's a smaller market, and everybody helps everybody. I mean, yeah, we might be on the same story, competing for good pictures, but we make sure we kind of do what I call the photographer ballet, that we shoot around each other. You're very aware of where the other camera people are. You get your shot, but you're kind of like, okay, I don't want to mess up by their shot. Just step in there. Sometimes things are unavoidable. But anyway, it's a friendly market to shoot in.
Tell me, if you can, a little bit about when you're in a creative flow kind of a thing. I mean, I know you maybe don't always get to get that in the news business, but you do at different times. Tell me what's going on.
Well, it starts by being out in the field, and either I have a reporter or I don't. The best thing I can use this as an example of working with Steve Carlin or Eric Hansen. We'll be shooting a story together, and they're both really good at. I have a blind side on the side of my cameras over here. I don't see what's on to my right, and I don't see everything. And the best kind of a reporter photographer team is when they're walking around. I'm shooting, say, a feature, and they're looking for shots, and they'll come back and say, "Hey, did you see this over here?" Da 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 da. And the best, and I end up with the best shots because they kept their eyes open and didn't assume that I could see everything. And then when I get back to the station, the story's put on the air, and they say, "Oh, people might say, oh, that was a fantastic shot." I say, "Hey, you know what? Steve found that. If it wasn't for Steve, I would not have seen that. But thank you very much." So it's definitely working as a team. My favorite thing to do is do nature stories, and that's just one of those. I've always had a soft spot for doing nature stories, and to me, the best shots are when you literally get down on your hands and knees, and you might just see a a grove of bushes. But if you get down on your hands and knees and start poking around, you see a spider web, and the sun might just be hitting it. It's 70% luck of going, oh, what was that? Oh, or you zoom in on something, and by zooming into something, you're like, oh, what? There's a ladybug crawling on that flower. I didn't see it with my real eye until I zoomed in. So a lot of it's luck, but it's just being able to go out and do nature stuff. I'm hoping to put together a fall piece this week. I don't know if when it'll air, but those are just fun to do, very relaxing. And my biggest compliment when I've had some nature pieces with birds, and viewers have sent in pictures of their cats lined up at the television watching my video and pawing at the screen. I always said we should do a promo saying, we're number one with dogs and cats in the metro. They haven't listened to me, but you know how that is. So those are fun little pieces. But it's just kind of clearing your mind and looking for details. You go to the lake and you see all the big wide shot of all the trees, and that's great. But it's the details that I tell people, anybody can do those details in your backyard. You can find a great photo essay if you just take the time to put your glasses on, which sometimes I have to do, to see the close-up shots and just look. And you'd be amazed at what, if you just are patient and take the time. Unfortunately, in the news business, we don't have much time to do that. I've shot some of those nature pieces in like, oh crap, I got an hour and a half. Well, let me do this really quick. Bam, 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 bam. So luck. So anyway, I've been graced by a lot of really good luck on the nature stuff and shooting in general. I've missed as many shots as I've been able to get. You turn around, you go, oh, that would have been a good shot, but the bird flew away. Or there's a kid doing something cute. Either you're there and you got it, or I've missed as many.
Yeah.
And you'll remember those. And the worst thing, I'm also a frustrated still photographer. And back in the days when we used to shoot film in your Canon, whatever, 8E1, I think I've done this twice. And it's okay to admit it. Shooting going out and doing a whole photo safari, and there's no film in your camera.
Oh yeah.
I call that shooting a ghost roll of film. And you think you shot a whole bunch, and you open it up to change rolls, and there's no film in there.
Oh yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's like, how could I have done that? You just, it's easier if you're shooting with more than one camera and you get confused about what's in. But so yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll learn from mistakes. I'm still making mistakes, and you learn from them. It's part of life. A lot of it is luck and being in the right place, and some of it's anticipating. Sometimes you just have to kind of, I think something's going to happen. I mean, I make it sound like all I do is shoot nature videos, but just being out in the field and knowing how to, sometimes we parachute into people's lives on their worst day, and you have to know when to be polite and dignified. And there are days when you might be in a situation where it's an emotional day, but for the right reasons. And you have to know if you can just slowly get in there and kind of get into the situation with people and videotape things without them, that they can forget that you're there. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But if you can kind of just, unfortunately, sometimes you have to get in people's business. Sound is just as important as good pictures, and getting natural sound of people reacting. Or sometimes we'll put wireless microphones on somebody and let them just go do their thing. and you can observe them from a little distance. There are times when that's not possible. And sometimes you just kind of have to, you see things starting to happen, and you just kind of slowly work your way into the moment. And they'll kind of sometimes forget that you're there. Or you just start having a conversation with them as they're doing whatever they're working on. If they're, at a lemonade stand or something like that. And, you just kind of, it's okay to talk to the people, talk to your subject as they're, because then they start to realize that you're just, the guy. I always say I shoot glorified home movies. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but at the same time, I also say being a photojournalist, the ultimate backstage pass to life, because I've had so many amazing opportunities, just being at the right place at the right time. And so every day is a new adventure. You never know what you're going to get into. And I always say, it's an outdoor job for the most part. When it's a really nice day, I get to be outside. And when it's a really lousy day, I'm outside. Wouldn't have it any other way.
That's great.
Jeff Christian and Jake Carpenter both started with me when they were in high school. And they started as just shadowing me. And then they got an internship. Then they got part-time jobs. And I taught them what I could, and then let them go. Jake Carpenter now shoots for CNN Chicago, goes all over the country shooting TV news for CNN. Jeff Christian made it all the way up to NBC News New York. Freelances now in Seattle, and just amazing. And I always say, a teacher is only a success when the student surpasses the teacher. I'll be doing stories, and I'll actually think, well, how did Jeff Christian do this? I'll think about what they've done, and to impress that. I look at their stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, wow, oh, holy cow. I'm learning from them now. And we send pictures back and forth, like our setups and lighting stuff, and it is they do it for real. They have the real toys. I try to accumulate what I can, but it's just fun. That's why I think speaking of classes, either college classes or high school or junior high classes, that's really important to give back. And maybe there'll be that one person in the class that it'd be a little spark, and they'll go, wow, that looks like fun. That looks like an interesting line of work. And that's if there's anything that I can leave my mark professionally, it's just inspiring others and letting them end up teaching me.
How long have you been professional?
45 years.
45, okay. How long have you been at KCCI?
I started at KCCI in '87. I started at Channel 13 in '75. So I worked at, and then for 1 year, I worked at WMAQ Chicago 80, 81 as a vacation relief. And then I came back to 13 full time. I had it in my head that I wanted to be a network cameraman. And that was kind of my way to get into that. But I found out even then I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And I was like, I wasn't ready to commit like that. So great learning experience. It's one of those deals when you're doing those live shots on the side of the interstate and it's during a blizzard, it's, or when you're outside in the winter, people, why don't you kind of come in and get warmed up? I said, no, I'm just going to get cold again.
Yeah.
It's like running the live band, you just stay out there and you acclimate. What I really love doing is if I could just travel the state taking pictures of dilapidated barns, that would make me very happy.
I have had that same I know. I mean, they're works of art, a lot of them, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then even in their
Or
sorry states.
small towns, and you can find the most interesting pieces of my little bit. Drive down the backs of businesses in small towns, and you can see the most unusual windows or just stuff left off to the side. It's just like this gold mine where I'm sure most people drive by and go, "Oh, that's been there," But then you go, oh, "That's a photo," And I love Instagram. I love putting stuff on Instagram, and to me, that's just my little gallery of art. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's art, but it's just fun,
Yeah.
And if some people like little snippets that I are able to get, but I love just traveling the state. I really love traveling Iowa.
The milkweed that you just took a picture of.
Yeah, that worked. So that was the Geico plant downtown.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I didn't put a locator, but we got there around the noon hour to do an interview, and I saw these milkweed pods, and milkweed pods. I should take some pictures of these. And I started taking pictures of them, and I was like, oh, this is ugly. This looks awful. This is like, no. Ugh. Then I went back to do live shots, and the sun was starting to set. And I thought, what can I do to make this? So my trick was I took one of the milkweeds and I broke it off, trimmed everything else around it, and just had the pod with the
Seeds.
What are those? Seeds. So I held it up, and this is totally staged, but I held it up and I took my cell phone and I just started looking to see what it was doing. I just kind of moved it around, and it was really windy. I just started moving it around and looking to see what it was doing, and then it started doing that swirling. That's not an effect. I don't even have Photoshop, period. Don't even know how to use it. And it was just a matter of kept on clicking pictures and moving it around with the sun, and oh my God, look at this, what it's doing. And there you go. And then I was like, okay, I think I got
it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
so thank you for asking me.
Yeah.
So I was very happy with that. And if you look some of the even in the little pieces of milkweed, the seeds, there's like little rainbows in the. So that was a lucky break. First, I started holding it up just to the blue sky. I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. And now, and the problem was there's this where the sun was and where I was. There's a big chain link fence between me and the sun, the Dyco. So I had to put I had to put my hand and my iPhone inside the gate. I was like, boy, I hope I don't drop my iPhone, because then it's going to be on the other side of the Dyco fence. So that's the only way I could get the shot, was stick my hand through the fence, the gate. And I'm doing this like, don't drop your phone because you're going to be screwed. So
I wish I had a picture of you.
Yeah.
Taking a picture.
Yeah. So that was, thank you. I was tickled the way that turned out.
No, that's great. That's awesome.
So it's just a matter of just screwing around, and again, it was just like dumb luck.
I'm gonna let you go, Courtney. But this has been a lot of fun, and I think
Raj, you asked a lot of great questions. I'm thrilled to be a part of your telecast.
Good. Well, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you, man.
Take care. Miss
All right.
you.